For Haiden Deegan, it's just another day at the office.
He's locked in for sure.
We have severe weather in the area, so we are on a hold of the program.
Fingers crossed, hoping it's cancelling, because then again, it's just not going to be any fun.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people complaining about the track today, which I think is BS.
There you go, from the horse's mouth. Welcome to Title 24, presented by NBC Sports. RV and I coming at you. We got a good show today. That was a wild weekend. Before we get going, get cracking, thanks United Motorsports, Boxo, Quadlock, Dunlop, and Cardo. RV, how was the weekend? First and foremost, did you guys race?
Yep, weekend was good. Went out to Glen Helen, did some a swap moto race out there. Endured the heat, but I don't know, it was 100 still out here, so dry and dusty. Lovely Glen Helen, but yeah, good weekend. Got to watch a broadcast on Saturday. It was awesome to see SMX, kick off again out at Charlotte.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend.
Yeah, it was.
We've got a lot of stuff, so we'll get right into it. United Motorsports moment of the week for me. I've never seen it. I seen it one time at the Motocross of Nations at Fox Hills. RV, my first Motocross of Nations I raced. It got red flagged halfway through the race. There was so much rain, and there was a hill on the track, and there was bikes just scattered all over it. So we were like lined up, right? Because we couldn't go anywhere. And we saw a marshal come in. He had a red flag, and he basically just directed us over to where the finish line was. And they called the race from that point on. I think it was halfway between Moto 2, and they canceled the third Moto, I believe, if my mind serves me. Outside of that, I've never seen anything. I've never seen this situation. So definitely a shock. Got a ton of fan questions this week, RV. But first and foremost, before we get to the questions, we have a soundbite from Mike Peltier and explaining the situation and the weather and why they came up with the decision that they did to call the remaining of the race with 2 motos to go. Roll it.
Okay, so what's the situation? This is certainly not something, I don't know if I've ever seen a race being called early like this, but is that what is going to happen?
That is what's going to happen. We tried our best to fit this back in, but due to the continuous lightning in the area, we don't have a window to do so with the diminishing daylight. So we are going to move away from and call the second motos. We'll base the results in points off the Moto 1 scores.
Yeah, the lightning. That's really what it comes down to. We certainly had a lot of rain. The rain wasn't the issue, I would imagine, though. It never has been before.
It's true, yeah. The lightning in the area, we just couldn't get a window, and they kept popping up around us. So we continue to monitor that. Due to the safety of the riders and all our staff and the fans, we just couldn't fit it in.
Well, there you go. I mean, Mike explained it well. There's definitely some upset people for sure. Like, where do you sit with this, RV? Do you have an opinion at all on it?
Yeah, I think number one, cancellation, like Mike said, was all based on lightning. That's the number one thing about why they chose to do that. That's one thing that it has been a rule for a very long time. Pro motocross, supercross. Well, supercross obviously is a lot of them are indoors, but still, nonetheless, safety with the lightning. So I understand why the cancellation. Man, I was looking forward to watching a mud race. I haven't seen a good proper mud race in a long time. So as a fan sitting on my couch, looking outside, 96-degree weather, I was looking forward to watching a good mud race.
I know, right? I think the last time we saw one was Boston race at Gillette Stadium. Remember when the red or the cross flags was going crazy and Chase jumped on it? Remember that?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we've had a couple, but I think that would have been a really gnarly one. As everybody saw, the way SMX track crew built that track, definitely way more technical, way softer, way more outdoors than it was previous year Charlotte race.
100%. Yep. 100%.
And that's what they're after, right? They're trying to combined as a supercross track amongst pro motocross conditions, and we for surely got that this round one at Charlotte. We had a lot of different riders having different opinions on how the track was during practice and into the night show or into the day show, into the main program. So I thought it was pretty good from the standpoint of sitting on the couch.
Yeah. So you liked the layout and the design and like the balance between a little bit of Supercross and the rest of the stuff? You like?
Yeah, I did. I thought if I had to say anything, obviously I didn't ride the track, obviously. Heard all the different comments from different racers, top racers and guys that are outside the top 10 like that, just going through comments and things like that. Maybe it was a little bit heavy on the prep side early before. I mean, nobody knew we were going to get the rain. I mean, I think it was in the broadcast a little bit, but like, as we all know, we're not changing our program based on weather. So they prep, they do their deal. SMX Track Group does what they're supposed to do to build a great track and great facility there. But man, it was pretty damn deep, RC. Like in the back there was some sections that were still, I mean, even after the first motos, if you weren't leading, you were plastered. Your bike was plastered. It looked like a true outdoor race. So, which was cool. But maybe we could take 10% out of it, 15% out of it and make it a little more raceable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what they did, RV, is I talked to SMX Track Crew and they put like a base layer down of mulch. And what they think the reason that it was so soft and so heavy, especially in that back section and probably some of the jump faces, what some of the riders were alluding to, their dislike from certain sections of the track, was it just didn't dry out. Like that mulch was holding the moisture. And as they're working it, it just didn't dry out. And there was a ton of, like, the sun was blaring. I got there Friday morning and it was like sun was blazing pretty much all day through Saturday until it rained. And I just think, that mulch was holding that moisture and it never dried up, especially like you're talking in that back section. I would have preferred, from a racing standpoint and like a spectator standpoint, being in the booth, I would have preferred it to be a little less deep and a little less heavy so they could move around a little bit more. 100%.
Yeah. So it comes down to lightning number one. Have to keep that at the forefront of all of that for safety of the riders. And I think, the amount of rain that came down, like I saw some footage, multiple pieces of footage, and it was coming unglued out there with the rain, rivers running through parking lot, things like that. So I think a little bit of it too, like Mike had said about timing, trying to figure out how we could get the race finished up with before it gets dark and things like that. With that amount of water that came down onto the track, I think they were going to have to do some track changes and things like that. And once it was that muddy, you're not changing any, you're just going to make it worse. So I think they made the right call in the end. I really do think they made the right call. If I was a racer sitting there that day and we just concluded the first motos, I can be honest. I'll speak for myself. I wouldn't want to go back out in those conditions.
Hell no, me either. I don't care if I didn't win, I'd be like, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah. So I think they made the right call. Number one, the call was based on lightning. So everybody needs to recognize that it wasn't how much water we had. It wasn't just the track changes, daylight. It was lightning number one. And then obviously watching how much rain came down, trying to fix the problems that they had at hand. I don't think it was a feasible option.
100%. And I know there was some upset patrons for sure. I understand their side, if they wanted to see all of the races. But at the same time, like you said, RV, and like Mike said, I mean, just the lightning was a problem. And I kept watching the radar in the booth. And as we were on a delay, it's just these little cells kept popping up, and literally, like, we were joking amongst the broadcast team and like production crews, like, if it wasn't on NBC, big NBC, there would have been no rain. There would have been no delay. It's like, go figure. As soon as we're on the big network, something like this happens. So I understand the fans and how they're upset, but lightning isn't anything to play around with. I know it sucks. And also, we were getting backed up on time as well in daylight, like Mike explained, and like you just said. So like the dirt works, there were no lights in the back section, so you had that challenge. So they were going to have to modify the track to some extent. And how long was that modification going to take? There were so many different moving parts. At the same time, we were talking about time, there were still lightnings, little cells popping up. And so I understand both sides. It's not perfect. At the same time, I hope that, most of the fans, and hell, dude, I got to tell you something. RV, I was in the paddock and the fans were awesome this weekend. That place was rocking. The fan fest was going off. So hopefully most of the fans, like weren't just there for the races and went and enjoyed the fan fest. And I can tell you that, again, I think it looked and it appeared as that was the case. So, if you were there for 8 hours and the last hour and a half got canceled, I guess, yeah, it sucks. But I mean, I think most people made a day of it. And,
yeah, man, I looked, a lot of the broadcast footage showed the campers, like just from the outskirts around the track and stuff. So that was a really cool thing too. Yeah, obviously it got nipped short. Head back to the camper and I guess keep the drinking going.
Right. And again, I personally don't enjoy mud races. I don't know that a lot of the riders like mud races. And, I think, and obviously this is a personal opinion, just like you wouldn't want to go out there. I wouldn't. I'm sure other riders would have loved to go out there, but it sucks. Like, again, the lightning was there and I'm like, I was bummed because I did want to get all of it in, but at the same time, they just couldn't pull it off and, and light restraint as well. So safety, all was basically the call. And I do think they made the right call. It sucks. And I feel for the people who are upset and don't feel like they got their money's worth, but that's above your and I's pay grade, brother.
That's right.
However, so Rodney Jr. sends us a question and Rodney asks, which take do each of you personally agree with, Deegz or Jett? Well, we have sound of that. So Hector, roll the sound.
It's kind of where fingers crossed hoping it's cancelling, because then again it's just not going to be any fun for the fans. It's like they want to see racing battling. They don't want to try and be guessing who's who when they're covered with mud. So hopefully they make the right decision and our safety also. So we'll see.
Like, are you wanting to get back out there? Are you good with where we are? You got your teammate here doing walk-bys as well.
I'm sure he wants to. I mean, I don't really care either way. If they want to send us in the mud, that's cool. Either way, I mean, we're chilling. I'm a racer. We'll figure it out. I mean, I've heard a lot of people complaining about the track today, which I think is BS because we're professional athletes, and I think you got to figure it out. So no problem with the track, and if we got to race, we got to race, and if we don't, then I'll take the dub.
Okay,
Yeah.
what side you on, bro?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just
said
we kind of just went over it, RC. If I'm a racer, if I'm sitting there in those current conditions, I'm not really wanting to be out there. But here's the deal: if there would have been lightning, they would have been racing. So along with all of that, it is what it is. Professional athletes, you race in every condition that's thrown at you except for lightning.
Yeah.
And that's what you would have done. That's what I would have done. Haiden, same thing with Jett. He would have raced if it wasn't for the lightning. So I think it. Like I said, I was a fan sitting here on the couch waiting to watch a really spectacular, gnarly mud race, because I knew if it opened up, what kind of conditions, what it was going to present us, it was going to be nasty. So I was looking forward to it. But yeah, I think it's just, it is what it is. You got two different takes there. Hayden's take, Jett's take. I'm on board with both of them. If you got to go, you got to go. And if you don't have to, then even better.
Yeah, preferably we don't want to go for Jett. Deegz is like, yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, they're both going to find out a way to do well. And I think we're going to get to what Haiden said, Rodney, to your question. I think that Haiden was either way. Jett obviously is like, well, yeah, I'd be pumped if they canceled it. He didn't say that, obviously, but he voiced a great opinion. But I think what Rodney, like what we'll get to with Haiden and his bigger picture of the track, and there's a lot of complaints from the riders and folks about the track and what they should do to make it better. And so we're going to touch on that in a little bit, and it alludes to what Deegz was saying. Moving on to the 250 class. So hold up. Go to unitedmotorsports.com/title 24. Enter your email and get $15 credit towards your first order. Then you will be automatically entered to the weekly drawing for a $50 credit on your next order. Everybody likes a little discount here and there and the opportunity to get some free stuff. Well, there's your opportunity. Head over to unitedmotorsports.com and sign up. Was there any surprises that you saw for the 250s, 250 race? What'd you think? Yeah, like where are you at?
You know, it's tough. If you take Haiden out of it, move him up to the 450 class, we'd have some hella good racing in the 250 class, right?
Yeah.
So from second back, all those guys are pretty damn close,
Right.
with speed. But you got Haiden out there just running amok and pretty much doing whatever he wants to do. He looks like Jett in the 450 class, in my opinion, really.
Yeah.
Hayden doesn't have to get the whole shot. He did not get the whole shot. He came from 7th and ran down Seth. I think he raced a 12-second gap, which was, at one point in time when Haiden got into 2nd, I'm like, okay, there's a fair amount of time left on the clock.
Yeah.
But can he run him down? And that's what he did. And made some really aggressive, not aggressive towards riders, but aggressive riding passes on the field. I loved the one coming down right after the true Supercross rhythm section we had. There was that right-hander before we went back over the wall. He blazed around the outside of multiple riders there, along with doing it up the inside too.
Yeah. He passed for the lead. He passed Hammaker on the inside there after that long rhythm lane. Yeah. And dude, he just looked like he was a step above everybody. I was surprised that he caught Seth. Seth was riding really, really well. And dude, but he did. He chewed up that 12-second gap, made the move, and then pulled away. I thought, for me, RV, over the weekend, I think the 250 race was the best race of the weekend, in my opinion. It was better over the 450, more action. You just talked about it. Haiden come from 7th. Were you surprised? I had a question. Were you surprised with Hammaker and how well he was riding, or not really?
Seth's been riding, I think, good all year. I would, if I'm Mitch, right? If I'm Mitch and I'm rolling around and I'm watching that race, I'd be stoked with my rider's performance, but then I'd also have a question mark in the back of my head with that lead and how did it disappear? Did Seth tighten up? What was he feeling just fine and Haiden just had that much more speed on him? I'd be really trying to go back to the drawing board to figure out like how that 12-second gap got crushed so quickly. Was it line selections on the track? Where did that come from? Because I felt like right as Haiden got into 2nd, like you said, RC, like almost felt like it was going to be Hammaker's race. And then that 12 seconds diminished very quickly.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So like when I was in the booth, RV, and I was like, okay, once Deegz got into 2nd, I quit looking at timing and scoring. And then like a couple laps later, I looked over, I'm like, dude, he is chewed up into it. He's like only 5 seconds back. Then the next lap, he was 3 seconds back. I'm like, oh, it is game on. I was surprised. I want to give Seth the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe instead of line selection, maybe he just got tight. And then obviously, totally. Once you get tight, it's game over at that stage, especially on a track like that, where you're like, it's so thick and heavy. You can't move from right to left and you can't escape. It's like you're trapped.
That's right.
So I thought he did good. At the beginning of the race, our man Sushi, like, do you think I think that was Wasabi Jo there. Do you think he should have played it a little cooler?
Man, that was a bummer because he was riding well. Just came in, maybe got a little too antsy, trying to get moved to the front. Broadcast caught that perfectly. Just coming into that off those little rollers, coming into that like left-hander, a little heavy on the transfer of weight, and the rear kind of just slipped out. He grabbed the tough block there. And spit him down to the ground pretty good. But no, I think that would have been an interesting one because I think Joe riding on those track conditions, the way Joe rides, how smooth and fluid he is. He could have been up front there and maybe gave Haiden a run for his money. So that we didn't see it, obviously, because he's laying on the ground. But yeah, Wasabi Jo was out for a few laps, and then he had to recover from the crash.
Yeah, I thought that Kitchen was riding well. He was in there. Like, I feel like if he would have gotten a better start and been up in that mix, I think he could have contended. But yeah, I think what'd you think of his riding, or was it hard to tell?
Yeah,
I mean,
like I said, it's if you take Haiden out of the class and you put all those Hammaker, Joe, and Levi, we'd have, you wouldn't know who's going to win Saturday night, right? So when you have Haiden standing on the top step of the box in the form and fashion that he does, and the gap that it seems that he has on the rest of the riders, it's tough to look back and be like, man, all you are riding, and I know they're riding really well because they're the best in the world at Supercross. And it's like, it's tough. It's tough for me to be like, man, I look at it and be like, dude, you need to figure something out from, Hammaker, Seth's side, from Levi's side. I feel like Levi has the ability and the speed when he's on to run up front, but it seems to be off more than on these days.
do you think like it would be helpful if they could get behind him? Well, they are behind him a lot in the races, but like in practice, like, and just like latch onto him. I know it'll be super annoying, and Deegz would probably pull off because you don't want people following you and stuff and showing all your ace cards. But would you do that if you were trying to beat a guy and like get better? Would you be getting behind them as much as you could, like during practice?
That's how we did it, RC. That's how I did it. If somebody,
that's how I did it. I used to hop in behind. It didn't matter. K-Dub, MC. If you were out there, I would have done it.
Like 100%. And a lot of that is, it might not even be, it's a lot of it's just straight up line selection. Where is he going? Where is he going a little bit quicker? Just learning the little things that say Hayden's doing. So yes, I think that could be a complete benefit. The thing is they're going to have to be able to go with him. And I think Haiden has more sprint speed than the rest of the field at this point. So it's going to be a tough ask, even jumping in behind him. Like, you gotta, when he goes, you have to go. So it's going to be tough. I don't know how much that could help. It also could play a negative role too, because if he just walks away from you in practice, then how does that feel going back to the truck? If you are a little bit of a mental case guy that is worried about those things, that could play a negative role just as much as it could play into your favor.
Yep. 100%. I thought it was a good 250 race. I think it was a bit better than the 450. Wasn't a lot of Dyson and guys making a ton of moves. I didn't feel like in the 450 compared to the 250, but the boys have got their hands full with Deegz for sure. The next two rounds. So the next two rounds are going to be important. The double points this week in St. Louis. We'll show you guys a track map a little later in the show for all of you watching us on Peacock or Motorsports on NBC's YouTube page. Boxo breakdown. Let's shift gears, bro. And it's a topic we've talked about it multiple times this year. The red flag penalty and the first moto and the only moto, the 250, and the penalties that were assessed to Seth Hammaker, Levi Kitchen. They received for jumping on a red cross flag. Hammaker was penalized 5 championship points. Kitchen was given a 1 position penalty. Because he passed. You're not allowed to pass on the red cross. And so that's why he got a position change. And then they also docked him 5 championship points. Mike Peltier was on the broadcast and explained it to everyone. Hector, you have that on tape. Can you roll that, please?
Has there been a decision made of what might happen there?
There has. We reviewed that footage, and Seth Hammaker is receiving a 5 championship point penalty for jumping under a red cross violation, and Levi Kitchen had passed another rider under the red cross, so he's receiving a 1 position penalty plus 5 championship points as well. So you see that this is the concern right here. This is where the red lights are on this jump, not the 2 previous jumps.
Oh, this jump.
That's this jump right here. So these lights are on as you see Seth jump, and Levi had passed prior to that phase.
All right. So he jumped on the red cross. Like the penalties were assessed. They did wrong in the areas where they weren't supposed to. Right. So we can't really refute that. And there's nothing that, honestly, RV, there's nothing to talk about there because they violated the rule in the areas. Right. But I think it goes to a bigger question. And Shelby Reitz, and I agree with Shelby here. I don't say I agree. I think it's a good question. She asks, is there a way to fix the flagging yellow light situation that screwed Kitchen and Hammaker? The flagger was on the landing of the jump before the takeoff of the next. Okay. All the keyboard warriors and anyone, like any officials, like, I'm not asking the question. Okay. I'm just telling you what the fans are saying. RV, what in the hell do we need to do to fix this? Because I feel like we keep talking about the Red Cross.
Yep. No, it's been the Red Cross and the lights have been a topic, man, I think since we started the show, three odd years ago. So this brings up the topic of conversation again of comms, right? Like if we had one way communication, either from AMA to riders or from a spotter to riders, one-way communication about Red Cross riders down safety issues, right? You're not using those for anything other than safety issues, comms, that is. Where Shelby's correct, where the yellow flag was on the landing of the first double before the right-hander. He eventually did pull the Red Cross out, but on the takeoff of the jump that Seth did jump and where he got penalized from, there is lights on that also. So my, not argument, but my concern would be more that those doubles weren't very small. Those were pretty big doubles. So once you're committed, you're kind of committed. You know, I could see Mitch's or Seth's argument that where Marchbanks was down was actually in between the lanes. He wasn't on the track. So was it maybe abused a little hard or used a little bit hard in that sense? Maybe. It just, like I said, it always, for me, comes down to, we've talked about the Red Cross and mistakes being made from either riders or AMA. You know, I think that's where the comms has a big topic of conversation. Like I said, I think that can solve a lot of issues in gray area when it comes to the Red Cross flag and also the lights on the takeoffs of the jumps.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know when there needs to be a remedy for sure. I'm all for comms. I've been outspoken. I'm all in on it. RV, you're all in on it. I can make a fair point of why it is more important rather than it being a distraction talking about comms.
And I think these SMX tracks, the way they're laid out, especially in drag strips, because it's not a true motocross track, but there's more jumps on these SMX tracks. I think it can be a little bit harder of a layout to manage the way you're jumping across lanes and jumping over drag strip, and you got the K rails running vertically through it where a lot of the track was going horizontally through it. So there's just a lot of obstacles and a lot of big jumps too that they're having to manage. And that would totally, I believe, alleviate it. Now you're going to have issues with comms. Believe me, just because we introduce them, or if we introduce them tomorrow, we're going to have issues. They're going to have to work through a lot of bugs and problems and things like that. But hopefully the end result would be a better product for the racers, but also for the fans.
And more continuity and consistency in the red flags. So riders aren't not seeing the red lights. Like for instance, Seth, like you were talking about, you're committed. That was a big jump and it was ruddy. So you don't, like, we're watching the video right here. He doesn't know anything is happening. Okay. And depending upon how far he's looking ahead, some riders look more ahead than others. You can see we have it highlighted. Okay. There's no red flag where the flagger was, but there are the red lights on the takeoff. Depending upon the light, it could have been tough to see. Listen, I'm not making excuses for guys, but we're just talking about where comms could have certainly helped. The referee says, hey, There's a red cross. I do feel like until we can get calm someday, I feel like there could be, and I know like safety for the flaggers and all that. I think that maybe there needs to be more flags like waving so those guys can see in a situation like coming out of a corner. Is there a safe, like, is there a balance that is safe enough to where we can have more urgency with the flaggers so at least they can see it, so we're not in the situation that we're in? I don't know. I would start there, you know. Moving along to Levi's situation, we have that also, and we'll show you why Kitchen got penalized. You can see the red cross. You're not allowed to pass on the red cross, and he goes up the inside, makes the move past Faulkner, and that is a violation. Red cross flag was waving, and maybe he was too focused. I don't know. I'm guessing maybe he was just too focused on Faulkner.
Yep, right there up the inside. So you can't make a pass on a red cross. But see, back to the Hammaker thing, also the Kitchen thing situation. You see the red cross flag right there. That red cross flag was not out actually when Hammaker jumped that initial double. It was still a yellow flag. So I think to use flags in a better situation, as soon as like the yellow, if they were, I don't know when they called, say, hey, pull the red cross, because obviously I'm not on that. I'm not in that situation. I'm not. That's not my department. But if the red cross would have been up and not a yellow, that would have for sure indicated to Seth that, okay, I'm going to come around this corner and the lights will be on. And I think he would have not doubled at that point. If Hector, if you run the Hammaker one just one more time, you can see that the yellow is out, and then he puts the yellow down and he's going to pull the red cross flag right at that point. Seth was already past that. So getting those red cross flags out sooner, that I think could have been avoided for Seth. Now, Levi just straight up made a pass on a red cross. The red cross was already out in that, in his regard. So his would have been a for sure penalty, for sure fine, or a penalty on Levi's side. But I think it could have been avoided with Seth if that red cross flag would have been out sooner.
Hector, now, so we got a lot of questions. Why didn't Deegan get penalized? Okay. And you just explained it perfectly. We have video to support why he didn't. Clear as day. Roll that video, Hector. All right. Walk us through, RV.
Yeah, as we're watching, we got that's
Marchbanks. That's Marchbanks.
Marchbanks. Yep, yellow flag. You got Haiden right there in the middle, VL in the back, and I think that's your teammate there. But see, Haiden rolls. So does.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. Why didn't he get roll that again, Hector? He comes around the corner. Everything is good. Okay. Yellow flags. There's no red cross flags on the takeoff of the jump. This next jump, if you're watching. Okay. They double back across, and then there's a red flag. So from that point on, you're basically
wheels on the ground.
That's right. No doubling allowed. Single. So that is why Deegan was not penalized. He did nothing wrong. He landed where the red cross flag rules went into effect. And so to all the fans, that's why.
Yep. No, for sure. And I think in the broadcast watching it, because obviously I watched it, and it was a little it was chaotic, and it wasn't confusing. It was chaotic, and the angles of the camera and things like that. So I could totally understand how some of you thought that Haiden should have been docked along with Seth, and why wasn't Haiden docked? Well, that right there is exactly why, because Haiden did not jump the double after the red cross, and he was quick on his feet. He didn't make that mistake.
Yep. Yeah. That you wonder, because I go back to the 450 class last year, RV, with Jett and Hunter, how basically they tied, and Jett won the SMX World Championship because he beat his brother on the last Moto. And you wonder if those 5 points are going to rear their head, at Vegas, maybe if something happens to Deegz, which, I wouldn't bet, I wouldn't bet against, because he's pretty buttoned down. So, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out, but hopefully that gives everyone, some clarity, on the red cross flag. Again, RV and I have been pretty outspoken on it, and I definitely think there needs to be a remedy. I know everyone's working hard to try to figure it out. I'm all for comms. RV, you're for comms. I think that
I mean, RC, we've talked about it enough, and also too the way we could we could plug and play the fans, or the fans that are sitting on TV. If we had a little bit of comms, I love the comms idea for the practice. When you're coming down, hey, go 3 clicks softer, hey, go 3 clicks stiffer, like the way you could integrate the fans from a TV perspective, I think would be insane. Obviously we already see it with 4-wheel racing. I think that could be something really cool, to be able to hear what the riders are relay into the mechanics or the technicians. I think it only elevates our sport to that next level also.
Hammaker, 100%. I was looking at my notes here. Hammaker had a gnarly crash in practice. Dude, that was like, I hate seeing stuff like that. And then of course, Juju had a bad one, got injured in that same spot, the only Supercross portion of the track right there in that rhythm lane. Juju, thinking about you. If you haven't, he made a post on his Instagram. So hopefully he'll be all right, and it's not as bad as what could have been. Obviously it's not ideal. All right, there we go. Haiden 50 points, Joe Shimoda -8, Hammaker -16, Vial 17. Down the list. Volan, look at Volan, dude. Max Volan's done a great job this year, and that's crazy when you consider he's got his rear brake he uses it by hand. Could you?
I know, dude.
Could you pull that off, dude?
I don't know. I mean, I think as a racer, right? Like, no, I couldn't pull it off now in my brain, thinking about how he does that. But if these great riders, they figure out how to stay on the motorcycle and race the way and do the sport that they love. And, with I think what is a dislocated hip is a nerve injury and things like that. So he doesn't have much feeling in his right foot. So, Bob over at actually ASV developed and built a handbrake that goes, I believe it's on top of the clutch lever, that he's able to use basically the clutch and the rear brake with his 2 individual fingers, which is pretty insane. The what you have to do to ride it's one thing to race outdoors with a handbrake like that, but Supercross is a whole nother level. As much as you're tapping the rear brake, which means you got to pull the clutch in and the rear brake at the same time, time those things. So yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think this weekend in St. Louis, it's going to be important for those guys. It's important for everybody, but they've got to find a way to not let Haiden win, because if he does win this weekend, double points with that lead he already has, it's going to be it's
going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, even with the triple points in Vegas. All right, moving along, 450s. Dunlop debate. Gavin _Angel, Jett, Sexton, and Tomac all mentioned that the track was sketchy. What made it so sketchy this year? Kind of talked about it a little bit, and it was just why, in my opinion, it was really soft. The base of the track was soft, and then as they transitioned to the jumps, it got super ruddy. Didn't look like it flowed. Yeah, dude, it's a gnarly track, and I like what Deegz. I support what Deegz said. Like, this is professional racing. Not always is the track going to be perfect. I don't know, man. Like, I probably don't have a popular opinion. I think similar to what you did, and how Kitchen fell at Daytona, and you go back to that little single jump, and he just wasn't mindful enough. It's a kicker, that it's soft, that you could drag your ruts. I think sometimes, yes, it was gnarly, and that's when you have to have self-restraint, and you got to pull back and adjust to the conditions. That's my opinion.
Yep. No, I agree, especially during practice. You know, you mentioned Seth, you mentioned Juju. I think even Malcolm cased that you said cased onto that triple onto the tabletop.
That's right.
And you know, it was all that same rhythm section. But that goes back to,
Do you think that? Hold up. Do you think it was dangerous? Do you think
Well-
that section was dangerous?
So no, I don't think it was dangerous. I think it comes down to how and I've said this before, you just said it again. Knowing when to be able to hang it out and when not to. If the track is that soft, we know as racers that the SMX tracker is going to put the skiddy on it. They're going to prep it. They're going to make it better. Typically practice for us in traditional supercrosses or these hybrid tracks, they get better. We already know they get drastically better for the main events. They go out and clean it all up. They make it more raceable. So yes, do we want to get a good lap time for gate pick? 100%. Do we want to have that edge of being like, hey, I just waxed all you guys in practice? Yes, they all want that, but also getting to the gate is the number one thing also. So knowing when to have a little restraint and holding back a little bit if the track is that sketchy, then that's what you have to have. Now, like I had said earlier in this show, is go back and watch Charlotte last year and watch Charlotte this year. Completely two different tracks. Maybe they went just a little extreme on it. Maybe they could take about 10% out of how gnarly it was and make it just a little more raceable. But like I had said, also, they did have some rain, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. There was some stuff around there, and they used different material and dirt, but all those racers have seen so many different conditions, so many different dirt styles. They should be able to decipher on how the track's going to be, especially after lap one of going out and practice. Like, okay, track's gnarly. We're going to have to really be on point. And get a couple good laps in, and then, you know, go to the line wherever we finish. So I think it comes back to a lot on the rider's shoulders on how and when to push it.
I agree 100%. Very similar to I'll use an example, kind of an example, RV, and this might make you remember a certain scenario. So I go to Atlanta Supercross 2007, might have been 2007. And there was this one section where it was after the finish line, turn left, and Stu was going like double over this tabletop, right? Where I was going double onto the tabletop, bouncing over, and then tripling. And he was going all the way over the tabletop, dude. And the tabletop was like straight down.
Yeah.
Right. So does that make the track dangerous because the tabletop was straight down on the backside and he chose to land? And if he would have crashed, is it the tabletop's fault or is it his fault because he came up short or he clipped it? It's an example of, I wasn't willing to do that because I know how fast you had to hit it. But I also was super aware of like, dude, if I clip that thing, it's game over. I'm going over the handlebars and I might not walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
The dirt was wet all day long, Friday and Saturday. And you just have to dial it back a little bit. If the guys, if you're going to lose some time, it sucks. I know it's not ideal, and other guys are risking it. Then, dude, you don't have to risk it. No one.
RC, perfect example. You have it's compounding points, right? So maybe round one is the one that you're like, hey man, this track's a little out of my league. I know I can be safe running around in fifth, third, fourth, whatever it is. And you make it through, and then next weekend it's indoors and it's double points, and then next weekend after that it's triple points in Vegas, and you make it up there. It's yes, we're racers and we're programmed to try to win every time we're on the track. Yeah. But you also have to be very smart on how you do that.
Yeah, was the track gnarly? Absolutely, dude. It was gnarly. What all the 450 guys saying, Jett, Sexton, Tomac, even kind of like what Deegz was alluding to, how he heard a lot of people complaining about the tracks. We had horrible crashes. I hate seeing guys crash, but you know, like I mean, there needs to be some personal responsibility too. You know, you can't make everything perfect. And I think that SMX track crew and even the AMA guys, I know we're tough on them, but dude, they're looking out for the riders' safety too. At some stage, you got to take personal responsibility. And was it a gnarly section? Absolutely, it was a gnarly section. And if you know, it just had big penalties if you didn't get it right. And I hate it for the people who crashed. I do. You know, it just if you start
It is what it is, buddy.
yeah, it is. Like I know it's a hot topic, and I'm not being I'm not being unsensitive to the people who had tough times through there, you know, but at the same time, it's like, where do you draw the line of just saying, okay, we're just going to roll it out and make it easy, you know?
Yeah.
You gotta be, these guys are pros. They're professionals, the best in the world. They're super gnarly. I thought that honestly, dude, I thought Eli rode a hell of a race. I think that, it's always hard to tell RV for me, because I don't ever know if Jett's like, I mean, he's not chilling, but he's so good at just managing 2 or 3 second lead. And I talked about it on the broadcast. So it's hard for me to tell, like, okay, yes, Eli was riding well, but was Jett just chilling? Like, where are you at with that?
Yeah, it's tough. Same, man. I mean, I hate to agree with you again, but no, it is tough because Jett looked like he was just doing Jett, you know, riding very well, but not doing nothing crazy. Eli was riding phenomenally well. I think Eli was pushing to try to catch Jett now, but where was Jett? You know, what was he at? Was he at 85%? Was he at 95? Was that all he had? I really doubt that was all he had. And I think to your point, he was managing those 3 to 4 seconds that's what he's the best at. One of the things that he's the best at is managing the race very well. And you know, I think Eli's got the speed to and he saw it. He's got the speed to run second. I just don't know if he has that next step to you know, I think Jett's going to have a majorly off day for the rest of the field to run his pace.
Yeah, I agree with you. Outside of that, I thought that Eli looked really, really well. You go back to last year at Charlotte, and they split motos, I think. I mean, he even said, like, it was fast, it was open. He does better at those tracks, which St. Louis is going to be much tighter. But anyhow, Eli did well. I thought that RJ did great. Again, it was great to see him up there. Not surprised by that with how well he did in the outdoors. Great to see that. Justin Cooper had a hell of a comeback. I think he went down right there in the first.
Yeah, it said dead last to 11th. So
yeah,
not a terrible performance. A good salvage for round one. Like we had talked about, RC, if you're going to fumble the ball, you want to fumble it on the round one. That's only single points. It's not double. It's not triple.
Yeah.
So fumbling the ball, that would have been the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree. What about Sexton? Where were you at with that? I thought he rode solid, just lost that little bit of track position early on. Were you
I thought
he rode?
Actually, when I watched practice, a little bit of race day live, that I thought he looked really good, actually, and I thought his bike looked good. I thought I was excited to see what the main events were going to hold. But as we know, it's so start dependent. Didn't get up front and run with Jett. But I thought after watching race day live, I was like, okay, if he can get up front and run with, you know, get with Jett, I think that we might have a really hell of a race on our hands. Didn't transpire into that, but I was excited for what I saw in practice. I even told Kyle, our mechanic, I said, man, Chase is looking good in race day live.
Yeah, he did. He looked rock solid. I'm with you too. I thought his bike looked great. And I didn't hear anything about, I mean, he said the track was super sketch. It was gnarly. But dude, I thought with as sketchy as the track was, if he wasn't comfortable, we know he's leaving Red Bull KTM. I thought it would too. I'm with you. I thought it was a hell of a job. Looks like he's in a good spot, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what he does this weekend. Going to St. Louis, it's in the Midwest. He's a Midwestern boy. And I like his chances. Like you said, dude, it's all about that start. And it'll be interesting to see. Let's switch gears to the quad lock question of the week. We have a winner. It's pretty good. I can take the pressure off of me because this week's questions for you, RV. And the winner of the quad lock question of the week is JWD_300. Congratulations, JW3_300. Appreciate your love and support and being a fan of Title 24 with RV and I. JWD_300. Questions for Ryan. In your prime 250 days, do you think you could have beat Deegan?
Well, 100%. I'm going to take Deegan's stance on it. 100% I could have beat him. I'd wax him all up and down the floor. No, that's a tough one. Like I think that in my prime, I'm 37 now. Hayden's 18, 19. It's always fun to bench race like that, to see, myself in my prime and taking Haiden in his prime right now in 250, and where would it be? I think that Hayden's the class of the field in 250. I think I was the class of the field in the 250 class. So sure, I think I would sit on this side of the computer and say, hell yeah, I think I could have beat him. A guy like Haiden,
Mm-hmm.
if he had somebody like yourself, RC, or like me, that dominated the class, because he has been dominating the 250 class basically since he's come in. It's very, very rarely do you find a 2007 season like me and Ben Townley, right, where we swapped motos every single weekend. Pretty much, we lost one overall in outdoors. More often than not, you find what you find here, where it's just one of those cream of the crops like that. So for sure, I would like to sit on this side of the computer screen and say, I think I would have something for him, if not could beat him majority of the time, or vice versa. You don't know. We'll never know. Obviously, technology has changed a lot too, with the motorcycles. Bikes are better, faster, they handle better, so things like that. But yeah, I think, to answer your question, JWD_300, I'd love to think that I could run with Haiden. And I think I could have.
Yeah, good answer, RV. I like that. Great question too, by the way. It is hard to, to say, could I ridden with that guy? It's funny that the quad lock winner question, it was very similar. Stu asked me, we were off air. He's like, do you think you could have ran and beat Jett while you were racing? And I'm like, dude, I mean, from the mental side of things, I think that I could have, but I don't know. Like, I think he's pretty mentally astute, and that, that's one reason why he's so good. But just the bike skill, and he has way more bike skill than I ever had or dreamed of had, RV. So I don't know if that would be the kicker for him of why I couldn't beat him. But it's just hard, it's hard to tell. From a bike skill perspective, there's no shot I could beat him. But as far as just freaking working hard and being,
you have that same thing. Like James had more bike skill than you, but you had the work ethic, the determination, the mental side of it. James had the speed and the bike skill, and you were able to overcome that. So you don't know. It's always good bench racing, right? It's always good to think about.
I don't know. I don't like bench racing like that, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know why. It's just like, it's hard to the hypothetical. It's just tough. It's different times. I mean,
that too.
I think what's gnarly, what's fun, we were talking about this. I think when you get to that level, we talked about this at the mashup thing that we did for the fans this past Friday. And I wish you were up there. You would have loved it. Like, and RV, do you feel like when you get to a level where like Jett and Deegan are, and like where you were and Townley was, or you and Stu, or you and Reed, like when you get to that elite level, do you think that most of the riders have the tangibles, but then at the end of the day, it's between the ears? Do you think that's basically the multiplier and what makes you come out on top versus the other great competitors?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, look at, you mentioned it, me racing Chad, some days, and you race Chad a lot, for a long time. Same with James racing Chad and me racing James. We all had the speed, and most of us all had the fitness. It was basically who showed up that day, that Saturday morning, with that extra 0.5% or 1%. And I think that all comes between the years for sure. You got to know, you got to be able to squeeze out that extra 0.5 to 1%, because we're not talking about 20 and 30% differences between these riders, where it's very slim margins. And it's who shows up Saturday morning, and has that 0.5 or 1% that's a little bit better than the next, because they're all capable of doing it.
100%, dude. Like, yeah, we were having that conversation, and basically how it, like, this is for another pod, but it was just basically, is when Chase goes to Cowie, is that going to be the magic answer? And I hope that he's better. Like, Stu thinks it's going to be better. I don't know that it's going to be better.
I don't either. I don't either.
I don't mean to be, I'm not being negative, but I don't know why it would be any better from comparing from when he went from Honda to KTM, or he's going from KTM to Cowie. I just, respectfully, I just don't see how it's going to make him be so much better than what he is now, and like Lewis, like, yeah, but maybe he just needs that change.
I mean,
Like,
but he's had the chase at Honda now he's at KTM. Now he'll be at Cowie. The thing is he's won on both of those manufacturers already. Championships on both of those manufacturers, but still has those mistakes. So for me, if I'm a betting man, those mistakes are going to follow him to the next team, until he figures it out between the years upstairs.
Yep. I agree with you. It's just like, it's tough. It sucks, but like,
and I hate to say that.
No, I do too. And dude, I hope it is, but I feel like too, and you've talked to all these guys, RV. And so I challenged Lewis. I'm like, what about when you talk to a guy like Jett, or you talk to a guy like Haiden, what's the answer like compared to when you talk to certain other riders? He's like, well, yeah, you're right. Like, when I talked to Jett, I'm like, when he got beat at, like, did he get beat at Hangtown? No, he didn't get beat at Hangtown or something. He was talking about where a race where Jett had gotten beat, and Jett was just like, he didn't really say much. He said it was just kind of vanilla or bland. Whereas, and Deegan's the same way, but then when you talk to other riders, it's a litany of stuff. I feel like I've done a moto after listening to them. Do you ever get that sense? I just think it's easier. Like, those guys don't think much. They know a lot.
I can tell you that I didn't think much. And I think that's the beauty. And I've mentioned it, maybe not on the show, but to other people, is compartmentalizing. High, very, very high, very high level athletes can compartmentalize very well. And I think Jett can do that. Haiden can do that. I did that well. You did that. James did that. I think Chase does it well. He just doesn't do it as well enough as Jett does. Yeah. And little things disrupt his racing, his riding, whatever the case may be. Maybe looking for that perfect something didn't go his direction, whatever the case may be. Riding tight is another perfect example. Like, you gotta be able to overcome that. And if that's what it is, you come off and you're like, dude, I straight up got beat and rode tight. But compartmentalizing those things is huge. Not letting that infiltrate you. Okay, well, what happened? What do I need to do? Oh, is the bike's problem, or is this, or is that? And I think all those riders deal with it at different levels. It's just how much do you let it seep in?
Yeah, I think what he was saying was what Lewis was saying. Like, he was asking Jett when he lost at Moto 1 at Hangtown to Tomac and AP. It was just a simple answer. He's like, dude, yeah, I don't know. I just got beat,
Yeah.
Where other people are like, well, this and this, exactly what you explained. It's just, I'm hopeful for him, but I don't know. We have to see that space between the ears at the elite level and the multi champions is just, I don't know, man. It's an oversight sometimes. I really believe that. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. Hector, roll the SMX and what we got to look forward to for this next week in St. Louis. There you go. Motorsports on NBC. Listen to the Insiders, 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. That'll be Thursday. And then Saturday, Race Day Live, qualifying and practice. That'll be live on Peacock. Check the boys out. Race Day Live does a great job. 6:30 p.m. Eastern, SMX Playoffs, Round 2. We got a pre-race show again, which is awesome. That'll be live on Peacock. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The Cup Series is at Bristol, the round of 16 finale. So the boys going to have to get it on. And then Sunday, which is really cool, we got a SMX Playoff, the encore presentation on Big NBC. You want to talk about an excellent opportunity for SMX World Championship. This is one Sunday afternoon. I mean, we're going to have a great, probably lead into football, Sunday football, I'm hoping. So this is a fantastic opportunity for us. And St. Louis is going to be inside, which is nice. There isn't going to be any rain, and I think it's going to be a great racetrack. Love the Midwest fans, you guys always turn up to St. Louis. Do you like, well, you got shitty memories from St. Louis, but
I have some shitty ones and some good ones. Hey, Hector, don't we have a track map that we can put up on screen?
Ooh, yeah, there you
we
go. Break it down, RV.
Yeah, it looks like some traditional supercross, some sand involved. Obviously, as you can see, the ones that are watching on YouTube or Peacock or anywhere where you're watching this, it goes out of the stadium. We don't obviously have that part of the track currently, but I heard it's still inside. It'll be a big long sand section outside, and it pops back into the stadium. So back to that, more of a traditional supercross setting, which I think is kind of cool. Not all 3 playoff rounds are, a hybrid. This is more of a very traditional supercross track. So I think from the fans' perspective, I'm looking forward to it, getting back underneath the stadium roof. Won't have any weather factors involved. So that will be cool. That will be nice. And we'll see how that track develops up. So I think that's going to be, because look, the last 3, we've had 5 SMX rounds so far, I think, in the books from last year to this year. And we haven't seen 7. Okay. 7. Yep. 7 rounds. And we haven't seen a more of a traditional supercross track mixed into our SMX playoffs. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch too. Cause now you got to think about it. Those guys are going to go back. They're more than likely going to run a traditional supercross setting next weekend at St. Louis. So they'll be making a bit of bike changes for that. And then obviously we go to Vegas for the finale, which will be a very hybrid setup again. So it's going to be a good 2 weeks of racing coming up.
Yeah, this racetrack too, like a lot of the lanes inside, even like a traditional supercross, it looks really like short shoots, so it's going to be a tight track, which normally I feel like in the past, when you get to those tight tracks like that, there's not a lot of separation. Guys can't pull away. I think it's going to be a great race. Probably going to be some block passing going on also.
Yep. You said, and this is probably going to play into Cooper Webb's favor. You said that you had talked to him. He said it seems like he's got a great setup coming into this more of a traditional supercross track. So there's going to be some different guys that are, we're stepping back into time here. We're watching RC's last
time machine, bro.
Yep. Yeah. We're watching your last win for supercross of your career here, St. Louis.
Right. That was in 2007. That was damn, dude, 18 years ago.
So that was my second year.
That's right. But you weren't. You were in East Coast, or you were West Coast. West. Yeah, I think you're West. Yeah. Stu and Reedy got in a battle that night. Look at Stu's waving Reed over here. He's gonna give Reed the business, getting in each other's face, and then I'm just like a passenger. I'm leaving. I'm like saying, "What's going on, boys?" But
is that the one where Chad grabbed his back of the neck on the podium?
He may have, but it was good. Yeah, hopefully we talked about it a little bit, Juju. Hopefully you're gonna be all right there. Everyone send him some love on the Instagrams. And again, when we were talking about the track, especially for me, not trying to be insensitive, but I do feel like the SMX track crew and the AMA guys do the best they can to make safe racetracks. When I saw that stuff, the speeds are fast, the jumps are abrupt, and it's just gnarly, kind of like what Haiden did, and you just have to adjust to it. I didn't think that it was dangerous. I did just think that it was gnarly, and trust me, I'd be the first to say, hey man, that thing was dangerous. But it was just like you've always said, RV, you got to take personal responsibility and know what you're racing. And, sometimes then that's a tough pill to swallow, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, thanks United Motorsports, Quadlock, Boxo, Dunlop, and Cardo. We appreciate you guys. Remember, you can check us out, Motorsports on NBC's YouTube page, on demand on Peacock. And yeah, dude, we're on all the podcast applications, as you guys know. That's it, dude, for the day. Yeah. What you got for the rest of the week, brother?
Back to riding with the boys. Got to keep them on that schedule, Gauge them. They think that's all they want to do, and I said, all right, well, it's a long road ahead of us. So it's been fun though. And
are you guys gonna race Minios?
No, we're not doing Minios this year. Trying to get some more seat time before I put seat time in the truck all the way out to Florida for
maybe a
position that we're next year. The goal is next year. So we'll see. But it's been fun. Been having a blast with the kids, and they're progressing. Maybe not as quickly as I'd like. Sometimes it's like watching paint dry. So I got to pump the brakes every now and then.
There you go. Sit back and chill. That's right. All right, dude. Well, have a good week. Thanks, everybody, for the love and support. We'll see you after St. Louis.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports. If you enjoyed what you just watched, well, it's time to bring the action and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel. You can have it all. News, highlights, interviews, and analysis. So go for it.